are you making videos for yourself or are you making videos for your audience? More often than not, when a business gets very excited about, we're going to make some videos, they end up inadvertently making videos for themselves.
Video and the power of video on YouTube platform against your other common platforms that you're more familiar with.
YouTube has about 4 billion active users. There's a great chance that your audience is on YouTube or uses it in some way. By comparison, I think it's about 400 million active users on LinkedIn. So the disparity is absolutely huge. So I've got videos on YouTube that are over 10 years old and still get views to this day, every single day. Whereas content I've posted on LinkedIn, I'm lucky if it has a lifespan of about 2 weeks.
Scale Up, the podcast for driving growth in your MSP, delivered by industry experts. We've got Luke from Falcon Digital. Great to have you on board, Luke. For the audience that doesn't know who Luke is, can you give us a little bit of background on your journey so far?
Sure. So I own a digital marketing agency called Falcon Digital. We have been going since 2009, but since around 2016, we've really started to specialize in video and video marketing, specifically with the YouTube platform. I'm actually accredited in YouTube channel growth. And although I really don't like the term, I guess I am fundamentally a YouTuber. I have quite a few channels of my own. The biggest channel probably has over 300,000 subscribers and somewhere between 600 and 700 million views. So yeah, YouTube and video is definitely a big part of what we do. I started to get really into video and I actually spent all of my beer tokens one term buying a digital video camera, which was the old DV days. And yeah,
Proper nerd.
Properly, yeah. And I used to film and document everything. And because there was no place to put these videos, I used to just make DVDs of them. And then people would come around to my dorm and it would have a good laugh at how drunk we all were like the night before, So essentially I was vlogging before YouTube even really existed.
Right.
And so when we started Falcon, video was always kind of at the forefront of my mind of something that we wanted to provide to our clients. All of a sudden, I was like, why aren't we using YouTube? We really should be using YouTube. Well, YouTube's a good platform, right? And we decided we'd make our own video content and it was awful. And none of it will ever see the light of day.
It's been took off.
Yes, because despite thinking that we were good at talking to people and good at talking to a room or whatever, actually talking to camera is a learned skill and we were horrendous at it. And so I actually said to everybody in the business at the time, there was about 7 of us at the time, said, right, everybody just start your own YouTube channels. It can be whatever you want. We just need to get better at talking to camera.
Get more comfortable.
Exactly. So my wife, she had a photography one, our technical director, he had a 3D printing YouTube channel. We had a drummers one, a fitness one. Everybody had their own channels. And then YouTube became like my primary hobby. I became obsessed with it. And the way that my mind works is I'm not satisfied in just posting. I want to know, why did that video do well and why did that video not do so well? And then I started looking at businesses and I was like, why aren't businesses using YouTube? It just seems like this huge opportunity and nobody's really taking advantage of it. I felt like I was taking crazy pills at one point. Yeah. And there was no video experts really out there. No one was really using YouTube in a way that I thought it could be used. And so we actually had to go to America. We had to go to LA. And that's where we learned from kind of like the top 1% of YouTubers at events like VidSummit. That was the best place to really learn and understand how the YouTube platform works.
So that's where we met each other. I started to go to events that weren't for MSPs, delivered by MSP industry specialists. I went to this YouTube event out of the blue and you was on stage. And a lot of what you said really resonated with me.
Oh, great.
To the point where some of those things and some more on our plan that we've done ourselves inside Scalable. So I thought you'd be amazing to come on and look at our audience and talk about that really.
That's great.
And I think what really aligns with our models is we talk a lot about data.
Yeah.
So we say, rather than saying how you want to configure a system or a process or train somebody, it's more about what's the data we want to run the business on.
Yeah.
And then roll that back because those data points is basically what's going to be in the system.
Yeah.
So what really resonates from you is you're all about the data when we talk about video content.
Absolutely. Yeah, we basically refer to ourselves as kind of making data-driven decisions. This is before we even start making video and then certainly after we've published videos as well. So if we were going to come up with a video concept, for example, we would start with, just basic competitor analysis. We'll look at which videos they've created that have already done really, really well. We will look at search data just to try and make sure we're covering topics that definitely have a certain degree or level of interest. And then once we've published those videos, it's all about the analysis. What worked in the video, what didn't work in the video. And then we use that data to help us implement better videos moving forwards. So almost every decision we make has some kind of data-backed origin, if that makes sense.
So there's so much more work goes into it before you even sit in front of a camera.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's one big thing I'd like to talk about today, is that I think a lot of businesses, when they finally make the decision of let's make some videos, they just make the videos very, very quickly without putting the right amount of thought and research into it. And actually, if you do that research, you do that prep, you'll get far better results.
So what would that research look like? So is it that, for instance, an MSP provider, they're going to go look at 5 MSP competitors? Would they just simply look at their YouTube channels, or what would they look at?
That could be a good start. I mean, I would always look at competitor channels first, and again, look for what videos they've had that have been a success. That would be a great starting point and certainly be useful for benchmarking. I would then look at data, so search data probably in particular, and I'd look to see if there's any kind of topics or pain points that we could identify that might be really, really good videos for their own channel. That might be a really, really good starting point.
So most people I talk to in our world, when we talk about video, they break out in sweats.
Yes.
Like, I am not going on camera.
Yeah.
This is just not happening. How do we get over that? Like, I'm not confident on camera. I've just thrown myself into it. Just be passionate, throw yourself into it. And I only watch probably 10% of our videos.
Really?
Because I just don't watch myself. Like, it's not my opinion that matters. It's
because you don't
the
like
audience.
seeing yourself on camera, or?
I don't like seeing myself on camera. I definitely don't like hearing my voice.
Yeah.
And I've got a big focus on, it's not my opinion. It's the data.
Yeah.
What does the audience like, not what do I like?
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to think about it. And yeah, almost everyone we speak to, I don't think I've ever met a single business owner that's like, yes, great, I can't wait to be on camera, get me in front of that camera and I'll start talking to it. Everybody breaks out in those cold sweats. And in fact, we've even had situations where we've got CEOs of really big companies that are used to high pressure environments like boardrooms, public speaking, pitches, whatever it might be. And they can handle those no problem at all. But when it comes to actually sitting in front of camera and looking into the dark abyss that is the lens, they just completely fall apart. So we've got a number of different strategies that can help them in advance prepare for that. Quite often, visualization is a great way of doing it. So actually imagining a person behind that camera that you're talking to and having a conversation with can be a lot easier. But more than anything, it comes down to practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the more comfortable you feel. Something that we found recently, taking that CEO example, is that conversational content tends to be far much easier to capture. It took us about 2 hours to capture a 5-minute video with the CEO on that day. It was hard graft getting that done. But then if we put them in like an environment like this, where they're having a conversation, in 2 hours of conversational content, you might be able to get maybe 10 videos out of that. So sometimes it's about finding what works for one specific business over another, but more than anything, it's practice.
Yeah. And then sort of when we think about it, it's all about the data. The other thing that breaks that in my head is I liked when you was on stage or we met each other, where you talked about putting video out there is like planting a seed. And those seeds will grow at different paces and you almost have no control of where you put the water. One video might go instantly, another video in 6 months' time, another video in 12 months' time, and I almost felt there was no logic behind that. So if that's the case, how do you know if you're doing the right thing?
Yeah, that wasn't actually me, that analogy, but I do like it a lot.
Maybe that's what I made up in my head off the back of what you said.
But yeah, no, I do like it. I mean, I think there is some truth to this as well. I think if you follow what I would consider to be best practices when it comes to making videos and packaging those videos, particularly on YouTube, they will at some point probably do well. You just might not necessarily know when. It might be straight away, like you said, it might be a couple of years from now. But if you have those best practices, sometimes even what might happen is you might publish 10 videos and none of those videos get a huge amount of traction. But then one video suddenly takes off and then it lifts the entire channel. That's something that we see a lot.
Because you've got those playlists and everything's linked.
Exactly. If you follow the best practices, and eventually everything will come to fruition. Where it doesn't work that way is that people have more of a scattergun approach, and everything's slightly different. They're trying different strategies, different type of content each time. And then when you do get a video that takes off, it doesn't really impact the rest of the channel in any kind of meaningful or positive way.
So how long do you leave something before you make a change? Because what I see often in the MSP world is, especially in the marketing world, we try and treat it like a technical world. We're very good at doing technical delivery. We're very good at hiring technical people. We're very good at putting processes together technically. And a lot of it's run off data because we're running service desks that compile a lot of data. So we try to put that structure into a marketing structure. And typically what I find is you're probably getting a 3-month reward off a technical hire. You don't do that in the marketing world. I find it's way longer than that, the strategies. So how long do you leave something before you change?
It's not so much that we wait and leave it. It's more a case of, even if we publish a video and it doesn't do particularly well, let's say we had certain expectations of how it would perform, and it doesn't quite match those expectations. If we look at the data and we say, well, actually, I can see this video hasn't done well because maybe the click-through rate's really low, or actually the audience retention time is really, really low, that video is probably never going to do well. It just didn't quite hit the mark. Whereas if a video hasn't done as well as you expect, but actually the click-through rate's really, really high, and actually the audience retention rate is like 90%, at some point that video is quite likely to take off. And so it's more a case of that video is probably fine, let's maintain what we're doing. If all the other indicators are bad, we probably need to make a change. And this is where we use those data-driven decisions. So where was the drop-off point? If the drop-off point's right at the start, there's something terribly wrong with our intros that we need to mix up.
Start engaging.
Exactly right.
When we think about those best practices, you've used that word quite a few times now.
Yeah.
How can we sort of dig into that a little bit more? So if I'm on the audience and I'm thinking, I've been prepping this video world for some time, I've bought all the shiny toys because we love buying toys as technical people. We've bought all the cameras, the mics, the lot. But we haven't actually produced anything. What's the framework that you would say, right, okay, for your first 10 videos or whatever it is, here's what I would do?
Yeah. A couple of things. The very first thing to consider is, are you making videos for yourself or are you making videos for your audience? More often than not, when a business gets very excited about, we're going to make some videos, they end up inadvertently making videos for themselves. So like, let's do a case study, let's do a show reel, let's do a testimonial. These videos are all great and have a place, but they're probably not designed for what you want them for, which is awareness. You want to bring in and reach a new audience and hopefully bring in some new sales. So actually, creating audience-first content is going to be far more beneficial. This is creating content that your audience will actually want to seek out and watch. If you can create audience-first content, you've already got a head start on probably 90% of your competitors. And then there's some frameworks that we recommend in terms of actually producing content. One of which is an acronym that refers to a process, which is TTH, which is your thumbnail, title, and hook. The second one is more about how you structure your video for best retentions. And this is called Hive. This is by another YouTuber who I think was called Ali Abdal, don't quote me on that. But he has a Hive framework, which I can talk about as well. So starting with TTH, so title, thumbnail, and hook, this is how you package your videos. So I think a big mistake that a lot of businesses make is they'll create a video, they'll publish it online, and as they're publishing it, they're like, oh, actually, what's the title of this video? And oh, actually, we probably should have had a thumbnail of this. Let's just quickly create a thumbnail.
And it's an afterthought.
100% correct, yeah. And I think that's a huge mistake because what they're doing is they're putting about 90% of their work into making the video and about 10% into the packaging of it. But if the packaging isn't good, nobody is going to watch the video. So I always say, start with the packaging first. And this seems completely backwards to many companies. But if you start with, okay, I've got an idea for a video, what's the title of that video going to be? Let's see if we can come up with a really compelling title that our audience is going to be really interested in. Once you've got that title, what's the thumbnail going to be? You don't necessarily have to create it, but we have to have a good understanding of what that thumbnail is going to look like. And then what's the hook? How are we going to hook people in? And if you can think of a really good combination of what that title, thumbnail, and hook is, at that point, then you create your video. And only if that's a really, really compelling combination. Because if you haven't got that, the video probably isn't going to do well. So the next part is in how you actually structure your video. And this is using the Hive framework. So Hive stands for hook, intro, value, and end screen. So the very, very first thing that you should have in your video is establishing the hook, or at least matching the expectations set out by your packaging. So if you've said in your hook that you want to improve profitabilities of MSPs, that's the very, very first thing that you should say in your video. What people normally do is introduce themselves. So say, oh, hi, my name's Darren, I'm at Scalable MSP, and they say a whole load of information that at this point isn't 100%.
And minutes have gone
relevant.
by.
Exactly. And what you'll find is you probably get a very, very high drop-off rate during that first start of the video. Whereas if you establish the hook first, now you've matched expectations set out by the packaging. And then once that's delivered and people are like, okay, I'm in the right place, you're going to actually deliver what you promised, then you can do a very, very quick intro. Now the intro should just be about 20, 30 seconds, and it's there only to establish your credibility. Don't want too much detail about the company or anything else. It's just how credible are you? Why should people pay attention to you and listen to you? The next part is the value. It's the V, so it's the actual content of your video. And the more value you can provide your viewer, and the better you tell the story around this, the better your audience retention will be. And then finally, it's E, it's your end screen. And this refers to your calls to action. Now, a big mistake people make with their calls to action is they have too many. So at the end of the video, they'll say, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, maybe check out my website at some point.
And do an acrobat spin.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've got too many actions, more often than not, a viewer will take no action. So what we recommend is having one very distinct call to action. And if you ask only for that action, the chances of them doing it are far higher. Now, depending on the video, this might be a link to a lead magnet or a sales page. Or if you're not even at that stage yet, the best thing that you can ask as a YouTube channel is not to subscribe or to like, it's actually to watch another one of your videos and increase your session time, because that's actually a really powerful metric in helping YouTube understand if you create good quality content for a specific audience.
Right.
So if you have those two frameworks alone in place, that can make a tremendous difference to how well your videos perform.
So that's really interesting, because I would go for the subscribe straight away.
Yeah, everyone does.
Like get my subscriptions, because I would say you produce videos for two reasons. One is to increase your subscription rate, and another one is to try and create revenue. And they're probably two different types of videos that you would create. So them are the only two asks that I would have.
Yeah. I actually find that I never actually ask for a subscribe anymore. It's always to watch another video or to link to a specific page, just because I find that if people enjoy your content, they subscribe anyway. You don't really need to give them that same verbal cue in a way that you used to.
Is it also in that Hive framework, the bit that I took from you, I believe it was yourself, but maybe it wasn't, a bit like my water in the garden, was where you basically take the end of the video and put that at the beginning, then have the video and cut it abruptly, so they watch the start again, which then gives the platform the 110% for you.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a storytelling technique that we use quite a lot. So within traditional media and YouTube and TV, we have what we call a traditional storytelling arc. And this is basically to do with the amount of conflict at any point within a story. So at the start of any, let's use a movie as an example. At the start of any movie, there's normally zero conflict. And then you have this kind of rising tension up until the point of the climax of the movie. And then as the resolution happens, you get this kind of drop off. So you get this kind of like, this is kind of like your storytelling arc. With short form content, what we found is that people don't hang around long enough to watch that video and kind of feel that whole storytelling arc. So we use reverse storytelling, which is where we start at the climax and then fill in the backstory. And I'm going to give you an example. So the example I used at TubeFest was actually creating my own podcast studio. So if I was to do this in a normal storytelling way, I would say that, we decided that we wanted to create a new podcast studio. We were looking everywhere for a space, try to find where we could do this. We found the perfect space, but it actually turned out to be the storeroom of a builder's merchant. And it was far from perfect. We had to do a lot of work to clear it all out, to soundproof it, to get it looking as nice as it did. And then the climax is, look at the finished podcast studio, doesn't it look amazing? And we do some nice shots of it all being used. If we're going to take that same approach, but do a reverse storytelling approach, we would start with the climax. So the climax is, look at this amazing podcast studio, doesn't it look good? Could you believe 3 weeks ago, it actually was a storeroom of a builder's merchant? And what you find is, when people see a story told in that order, they then actually want to rewatch the start with knowing the context of the backstory. And that's how you end up with these automatic kind of like 110, 120% average view percentages for short form content, because shorts automatically loop and start again when you get to the end of the videos. So reverse storytelling is super, super effective for short form content.
Yeah, so that's an example of what does the platform want to see? The platform wants to see anything that goes over 100% view.
Yeah.
So somebody's watched that content again, which must mean that content is really good.
Exactly right. Yeah, and then that's just a key marker that it's looking for. Average view percentage is absolutely one of the most important metrics, I would say, for short form content. So if you can get it over 100, and if the video is a decent length and you get over 100, that's a really, really positive metric for sure.
And what's a decent length? Like when people talk about short and long, like what is that for people that don't know?
There's a bit of crossover now because short form content is getting longer. You know, shorts on YouTube are about 3 minutes now. I think on TikTok, TikTok's now up to 30 minutes. I think it's getting pretty long. So there is absolutely crossover. We normally think now of short form content as portrait and longer form content as landscape. That's kind of really the biggest differentiator. What we found is that around about the minute mark is still probably where we have most success. But if you can produce a 3-minute short and get 100% average view percentage for that 3 minutes, the total watch time is going to be at its greatest. Total watch time, of course, being the most important metric on a whole of YouTube. So if you can get that high watch time, that will absolutely do better. But getting a 100% average view percentage on a 3-minute short would be extremely challenging. You'd have to produce some really, really good content to kind of get that result.
So you're actually saying the easiest way to get that on over 100% is to keep it a minute?
Possibly. I can't really say that. All I can say is statistically, when we look at all the different durations and we look at all the viewership of those videos, that videos around the minute mark are still getting the highest amounts of views.
And then a long video, how long would you expect that to? It's in landscape mode. Is that 50 minutes?
Again, there's a bit of context to that. It would depend on the channel, the niche, and the audience that you're targeting, and the type of content that you create. At one point, it was around about the 10-minute mark. And there was a lot of advantages for being slightly over 10 minutes in that it gave you a little bit more control over where you could place your advertising from a YouTube perspective. Okay. And that's why most creators create videos that are at least 10 minutes long. But with long form content like podcast episodes and things now, I mean, some videos are over 3 hours long. But I think again, looking at it statistically, just looking at all the different durations and where the viewership lies, around about the 20 to 30 minute mark at the moment seems to be doing extremely well.
We touched a little bit as well about getting them to watch another video, ask them to watch something else on your channel. So I've had that feedback just recently on our channel, where somebody said to me, I don't know if it was, I took it as positive, but not sure. They were in a car, they listened to a podcast, and before they knew it, they'd listened to 3 because the platform had just auto rolled into the playlist, and because they were in a car, they just carried on. Yeah. So they'd actually watch 3 different pieces of content very quickly in a car. So the platform's going to love the fact that they did that. But is there any techniques that people can do though about playlists, etc.? Because I would never have thought about playlists before I came to your event.
All right. Well, I mean, one of the most powerful things that we see is at the end of your video, rather than letting YouTube suggest a video for you, YouTube actually does a pretty good job because it knows a great deal of information about your viewer. So it could actually find the best video to recommend. But what we've found is that if you were to give a verbal cue and say, let's say you've made a video about improving the profitability of an MSP. At the end of the video, you say, I've given you a lot of information on how to improve the profitability, but actually, if you improve your processes and make things more efficient as well, that can also have a big impact on your bottom line. To find out more about that, you want to watch this video here. What you're doing is you're creating a relationship between that video and making it seem like, okay, I've given you some information, but there's more to the story here. But if you watch this video, that's going to fill in that gap. That's a really, really powerful way of getting people to watch more and more of your videos.
Would that make the platform more likely to suggest that one as well? Or
possibly. I mean, it would certainly create a data connection between the videos. Data relationships absolutely seem to influence what gets recommended, but there'd be no guarantee. Yeah, it's always better to do it manually if you can.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people on the audience that are thinking, YouTube, yeah, that's cool. I see my kids watching YouTube. I see me watching YouTube because I watch either stuff that is B2C. I'm going buying something. it's not really a B2B platform. I'm sure there's people sat there thinking, why would I, their industry is SMEs, probably in their area, in their catchment area.
Yeah.
Why would they use YouTube?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I was actually at a workshop event explaining this to a room full of very, very smart business owners. And they were all adamant that LinkedIn was where they needed to be posting their videos. And I was trying to explain to them the scale of the opportunity that actually exists on YouTube. And it was very, very difficult for them to accept. But if you just think about it, just in terms of scale alone, YouTube has about 4 billion active users. There's a great chance that your audience is on YouTube or uses it in some way. By comparison, I think it's about 400 million active users on LinkedIn. So the disparity is absolutely huge. Second aspect is that you've got a lifespan of your content on YouTube, which is far greater. I've got videos on YouTube that are over 10 years old and still get views to this day, every single day. Whereas content I've posted on LinkedIn, I'm lucky if it has a lifespan of about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to explain to people is, look, your audience is definitely on YouTube and your return on investment is always higher on YouTube for lots of reasons. Just as an example, there's data showing that YouTube has 1.6 times the effectiveness of any other social media platform where effectiveness is ROI. So, that alone is an incredible statistic. On top of that, there's another study, I think it was by Brightcove or maybe it was by YouTube. They found that around about 98% of people trusted people that were on a YouTube platform far more than they did on any other social media platform, which is a huge statistic in itself. But I think everyone kept saying to me, but YouTube is for entertainment, it's for kids, there's gamers on there, it's not for business. But regardless of why your reason is for going to YouTube, is if you see something that's relevant, you will watch it. The example the guy gave me in the meeting was, I only use YouTube for watching videos about cars. Fair enough, I completely understand. But if you are the owner of an MSP and you go to YouTube to watch videos about cars, and while you're there, a video pops up that's all about a pain point that you're having of MSPs and how to solve it, there's a very, very high chance that you'll probably click and watch that video. So I think people's perceptions of YouTube is all wrong. In fact, perception of all social media channels is probably slightly incorrect. I feel like Instagram's kind of perceived as a place for inspiration. TikTok's kind of a place for entertainment.
Fun.
Yeah, LinkedIn is business, and then YouTube, well, that's just entertainment as well. But YouTube is really all of those things. It's all of those things combined because it's just such a behemoth of a platform.
Yeah. And you mentioned TikTok a little bit. Should people use TikTok, in a business world?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Again, I think the perception is it's all kids, it's all skits, it's all dance routines, all these kind of things. That was certainly my perception of it. But again, if you look at the data, what we see is about 36% of the audience on TikTok is between an 18 to 24 range. But then the remaining 66% or whatever it is, that's people that are 25 and older. And if they, chances are they either work for a business or have a business of their own. If they see the right content there, there's absolutely no reason why they wouldn't engage with it. And that's what we see when we create B2B content on TikTok, is it does extremely well. It might not get the same viewership as like 1 million views, but out of the thousands of views that it gets, we might get a positive outcome out of the back of doing it. So,
and if somebody is creating video for YouTube, they're doing longs, they're doing shorts, how much more work is there to put on TikTok? Is there a third video, or is that something different?
Yeah, no, I mean, what you're talking about there really is kind of like repurposing content. So you create your content for YouTube and then you repurpose it across all the other platforms. That's absolutely a viable thing. It's very, very cost effective. And it can be a great reason to get onto those platforms. At the very least, you're capitalizing on what would otherwise be a missed opportunity. I would say if time and money was, no question and no objection, you would make content specifically for each platform. That would be the best result. But content repurposing can certainly take you places for sure.
Yeah. So you're basically taking a short that you've done on YouTube, tweaking it slightly.
Yeah.
Putting it straight.
I mean, in some cases, for my personal channels, I make no differences between the content I publish on YouTube as I do on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. It's exactly the same. And the only reason I do that is because my content will get stolen a lot and somebody else will publish it. So I just do it almost as a repository. but I'm starting to build up followings on those platforms just by repurposing alone.
When we talk about successful scorecards and data, is there like a blueprint to what we should have on there? Like what should we be monitoring? You talked about average viewing time being the number one thing on YouTube. When people are creating content, video content, and they're publishing it on different social media platforms, is there a whole array of different things you should be looking at, or is it the same?
I mean, they're becoming more and more similar. Years ago, when I first started using YouTube was way ahead of everybody else. And the metrics that we looked at on YouTube were far more sophisticated. Now, all the platforms are becoming more and more and more similar, which is kind of a good thing in a way. Ultimately, what the algorithms are trying to do is replicate the audience. So often when we say we're working towards the algorithm on YouTube, we're actually working out what the audience really wants. And all these platforms are becoming increasingly similar. They all want the same things. We're all measuring essentially engagement and attention. So if you can keep people watching a video for as long as possible and it does well, that's going to do well across all platforms. There'll be subtle differences between each one. For example, I know TikTok, for example, is really, really big on comments. So you can have really, really good metrics, but if no one comments or engages in the video, it doesn't seem to perform quite as well, for example. But they're getting more and more similar for sure.
So we talked about YouTube, we talked about TikTok, we talked about how lots of people are doing LinkedIn, because like LinkedIn is the place for a business to be now. Everybody's driving LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So what should people do differently? If we're saying to them, the key here is video and the key is maybe being on YouTube because none of your competitors are doing very well there.
Yeah.
And you could spend a lot of time there and get ahead of them. What should they then be doing on LinkedIn, sort of thing, across the free platforms?
Yeah, so one big differentiator, I guess, is with YouTube, you have that longer lifespan of your content. So you have that, if you create lots of evergreen content, you get that kind of compound effect over time of getting those increasing numbers of views, that increasing audience, which is really great. With YouTube, because the lifespan of your content is so short, what we find is that the amount that you publish really, really matters. So having a higher frequency of posting definitely seems to matter quite a bit. We've even found that reposting your own content really seems to help. So we might publish our content, say at 9 a.m. in the morning for one particular client, and that helps address like the UK kind of European market. And then around about 2 p.m., we repost that same content again, because then it gets eyes on the US market, just for example. So yeah, the way in which we use LinkedIn is completely different to YouTube. YouTube requires a certain amount of consistency, but LinkedIn requires almost like a consistency and frequency in our experience anyway.
So YouTube, in my head then, YouTube is almost like a building brick compound effect, because as long as you're doing the right things as you're learning, obviously, but you're doing the right things, that video that you did 4 years ago still has some visibility, plus all the other videos. If you do one a month, you've now got 60 odd videos that are being watched over that 4-year period, where on LinkedIn, it's not really evergreen, it's going to disappear very quickly.
Exactly. I don't know how quickly things change in the MSP world, but I have a friend, for example, she does lots of LinkedIn videos, how to use LinkedIn, and she must have over 1,000 videos now. It's all about how to use LinkedIn. And because things don't change massively quickly on LinkedIn, all of those videos are still kind of accumulating views over time. And again, huge compound effects. She's now got over 100,000 subscribers on her channel. So it really does make a difference. So
let's call it a debate that I have. It can sometimes get a little bit frustrating and argumentative, but it's a debate.
My favorite kind.
With MSPs that I speak to, but also my own internal team. When we talk about LinkedIn and we talk about, what you just said is, I'm going to create some content and I'm going to post it at 9 a.m. And then I'm going to post it again at 2 p.m. And I'm sure people on here are thinking what I thought, which is like, well, why would I post it twice to my same audience? Surely that's like over-posting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, just clarify, it's a really good point. I wouldn't post the same thing twice. I would repost your original post. By reposting, it doesn't seem to get seen by the same audience in the same way. It just seems to get seen by the new audience. And that seems to be quite an important differential.
Okay.
So it's something that I don't see many people doing.
Yeah. So, and I always have, again, the debate about the volume we should post on LinkedIn versus the volume we should post on YouTube.
Yeah.
And some people would say, I only want to post once a week because my audience only wants to see, I see better performance when people only see it once a week.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that's a data argument. It's more of a gut feel argument that they say.
I agree.
And people say, actually, for instance, Alex, who I follow a lot, talks about unless you have a business that is in a small village and you already consume 80% of that village as customers, at that point, you should go and open up another depot.
Yeah.
But typically in the MSP world, we're covering such a small percentage of the opportunity that's out there. And his argument then would be that you can never overpost because the platform will never show it to that many same people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with it. Sounds good. Yeah.
So you would post more frequently rather than less, but with good content.
I'm not the biggest LinkedIn expert, but my understanding is frequency absolutely plays a huge part. And again, I mean, LinkedIn, we've noticed ourselves that we're seeing posts from maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that suddenly start to get traction. LinkedIn is definitely making some changes and trying to get rid of that kind of time sensitivity to some of its posting. It wants older posts to appear to people that it's relevant to. But at the moment, if you kind of need to post with a higher degree of frequency because posts do just seem to die quite quickly, basically.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that myself on LinkedIn, that people say to me, like, I opened LinkedIn today and you was the first on the screen. And I think to myself, we've not even posted today. Like, that was a 2-week-old post that you're seeing because the platform sees that you want to see it.
Yeah.
It's not us that have posted just on that time frame.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of my friends, so she had a post from 5 years ago that suddenly started doing well. It's obviously become relevant for some reason. But YouTube only actually gives you data from the last 2 years on your posts. So she can see that it's getting loads of views and attention and comments, but she can't see any data as to why it's happening because the post is so old. So there's definitely some shift happening for sure now.
Big thing that I see in MSP world, consistency. As business owners, we travel, we go to community events, we go to vendors, and what we're actually doing is feeding our habit because what we want is new things. We want to learn. We're technical people, so we're technically driven by learning all the time. That's what we've done in our whole career.
Yeah.
So we go out there to find it, but that then means every month or 3 months, we come back with, we're changing.
Yeah.
We're doing this because we're not getting a reward for what we're doing today.
Yeah.
What's the advice on consistency?
Yeah, I mean, consistency can mean so many things. Consistency can be your publishing schedule, it can be your frequency, but what you're referring to there, I think more is almost like your topic selection and your approach to creating videos. I kind of liken it to having like a personal trainer. Let's say that in a new year, you decide, you know what, I'm going to try and lose some weight and I'm going to go on the diet. I'm going to go on, I don't know, the keto diet or something. So you do it for 2 weeks and you lose a couple of pounds, things are going okay. But then somebody else says to you, oh, actually, have you tried the vegan diet? You're like, oh, yeah, that actually sounds really good. And this guy lost loads of weight, I'm going to try the vegan diet. And then you try another diet and another diet. And then 12 weeks go by and you've not really made a huge amount of progress because you've been flip-flopping between your diets. Whereas if you had a personal trainer or a coach, he could say, no. Any diet will work so long as you stick to it. And if you stick to the same diet over 12 weeks, you'll probably make far more progress than if you just keep flip-flopping. It's exactly the same for video as well. Consistency in that way is really important. And so sometimes it can be extremely useful to have even just a consultant or a video expert that can come in and say, this is a strategy that you need to implement. Let's keep you on the straight and narrow. And if you do this, then over time, you will see results. It can be a huge, it can be huge.
So when my mind went there with the diet and the health and the gym, because I'm big into all of that.
Yeah.
And I probably yo-yo like I don't know as well. Jonathan said to me a while ago, Jonathan Edward, when I was talking to him about video, and his advice to people is, it's so hard to keep consistent. It's so hard to deliver, especially when you don't get reward.
Yeah.
So make sure it's something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's very much like the diet. You know, if you pick a diet that doesn't fit the way you run your life, you will never stick to it long term. Because what you're actually talking about is changing your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because if you do a fad diet, no matter how long you do it for, at some point you'll stop and you'll pile all the weight back on.
Yeah.
Because you'll just go back to your old habits.
Yeah.
So it's almost it's not a diet, it's a thing that you're going to do forever.
Exactly.
So it needs to be something that fits for you.
It's got to be sustainable. Yeah.
That's how I sort of see video. It has to be something that you enjoy.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. And there's a benefit for doing this as well, because if you are always covering the same topics in the same way, if you do ever have a successful video, you can then double down on that without any fear that you're suddenly being taken off in the wrong trajectory or going in kind of the wrong direction. Case in point, when I first started on YouTube, I was just creating YouTube videos for fun. I had no desire to become a YouTuber or to get millions of views. That wasn't my goal.
You didn't want to get down with the kids, or?
No, absolutely not. And so I just made videos on whatever I wanted. So I had fitness videos, car videos, food videos, gadgets, whatever it was. I had one video, which was about a tattoo cover-up, actually. And it was my most successful video. It was my first video to hit 250,000 views. And when it hit 500,000 views, I actually removed it from my channel because I realized I was bringing in a whole new audience of people that are only interested in tattoos. I'm never going to have any more cover-ups. I'm never going to do any more tattoo videos. All those people that are subscribing are not interested in any of my other content that I'm producing. So I've got this kind of inactive audience being built up, which takes a long time to get rid of. So that video is actually more damaging to my channel if it was, than anything else. So actually, it was in my interest to delete that video.
Yeah, because they're going to come back to try and watch a similar video and eject from the video because it's not what they came to view.
100%. And so it's the same with businesses. If you end up slightly veering off your strategy and then you have a success with that video, you might be attracting the wrong audience. You can't double down on that video. And doubling down on your success is really one of the best steps that you can use to really grow a channel.
So you talked a little bit there about doubling down and really focusing on video, really focusing on the prep work to video we've talked a lot about, focusing on data. I'm sure people out there are thinking, this is amazing, but where am I chunking this into my 60 hours of a week time going on here? Mm-hmm. I was at an event yesterday where I actually did a live Slido to create a conversation angle. It was a bit like the book, turn to page 20 if he dies, turn to page 40 if he lives.
Yeah.
And the number one thing in the middle was time.
Yeah.
That is all I hear from MSP owners or leaders in MSP. There isn't time. And they're actually talking about priorities there.
Yeah.
So when we talk about doubling down on video, prepping all of this, for those that are doing a small amount or nothing or a little bit, what does that mean to them? Like, how can they make it really efficient?
Yeah. I mean, every business we speak to, their biggest objection is always time. I actually spoke to a business owner recently and I said, I've actually got this great strategy for you. And he was like, it sounds amazing. I just don't know how physically we would ever get it done. I think with my own channel, using that as an example, what I always try and do is I keep within my niche, I keep within my topics, but I experiment and I find what works. If I find something that works and I get a video that really takes off, I then say, okay, well, why did it take off? Is this a framework that I can then replicate across other videos on my channel? If I can then do that successfully, and I then have a formula as such for my videos, that really helps speed up my process for script writing, editing, and everything else. And then, of course, for me personally, I then see if I can then replicate that across other channels and other niches for our clients. But if you can find something that works, that can absolutely save you time. It is, however, more of a trial and error. There are some best practices that you can use, which is like the Hive framework, for example, but trial and error certainly plays a big part in it, for sure.
Yeah, and my advice would be to put people around you that are better at the things that you don't prioritize. Mm-hmm. So if you're not going to prioritize the room setup, or you don't need to be prioritizing that, or even the content and the script and the material you're going to use, get other people around you that's going to deliver that to you.
Yeah.
So then rather than you spending half a day doing this exercise, you're actually going to turn up for 1 hour, deliver against that and walk away.
If you can do that, that is the kind of the best case scenario. Think of someone like Steve Bartlett, for example, with the Diary of a CEO podcast. He has a whole team behind him, and he will literally walk into a room and have all the prep and all the questions and everything he needs to know about the guest. He hasn't done that himself. That's all done for him. And then he's just there for the hours that they film, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
If you can have that kind of situation, it's going to be so much easier to do.
He even talks about the humidity and the temperature.
Yeah, how much oxygen in the room. And,
to keep your brain going.
That's it.
It's amazing. Have you seen the pamphlet he creates?
No.
I really want to replicate that. So what he does is he will have a podcast, he will set up the podcast, he'll have a conversation, and there's somebody's job is to basically pick up your key items and at the same time take snippet shots, take environment shots that are going on. And when you go to leave, somebody comes to the side of Steve, gives him a pamphlet, he gives it to you, and you've now got a book of the day with video shots and snippets of what you've done in that day.
That's so cool.
It's just like that 1% differences makes so much difference.
Definitely, he's got lots of those 1% differences that makes
over the time.
That's what it is.
Unbelievable. So that 1% gain that he does, that's actually like, I've really embraced that in our business. And I see it in the MSP world. They go to the same events, they have the same discussions, they have the same keynotes. And your problem with that's really good, but your problem with it, you've now got, let's say, up to 4,000 people in the audience that are going to take that away, and everyone's going to do the same.
Yeah.
So a real problem for the MSP world today, and the way it's shifting, is how do you stand out?
Yeah.
Everybody looks the same. You know, you go to a website, you could almost say, just change the color and the logo and it will be the same. And I can show you multiple websites that look exactly the same frameworks, the same structure. They all talk about how they're all about the people, they're all about the client, they are about the strategies for the client, they're all about securing the client. And the client sat there thinking, well, you've all just told me the same. You've all spun in some technical words that I don't understand. So all I've now got is, do I like you as an individual? And is it the cheapest?
Yeah.
And that's where they're at today. We're trying to find net new customers, as well as we're seeing a lot of people locked into long-term contracts. They might be in pain, but they're not being released from that contract. So they're talking to the new MSP, but there's a massive runway before they're going to win that new customer.
Yeah.
So we think about videos. I do believe a lot of people are not doing videos at all, but how do we stand out? How do we make ourselves look different?
I mean, I think even just having video is a huge differentiator, particularly in an environment where nobody else is really doing it. I had a conversation recently with someone called Alex Curtis. He owns a company called The Lead Engine, and he helps mortgage brokers. And he is really, really good at helping them design really, really high converting landing pages. And he's always sharing statistics. And one of the statistics he shared recently was that if you were to have a picture of your face on your landing page, that actually increases conversions massively, because now you're not just letters on a web page, you can see kind of the person behind it. Video is kind of the next step further from that. It's an insight into your business. You can see what the infrastructure is like, what the ethos of the personnel behind the company. It's not just a guy in his bedroom who's maybe really good at making websites and he's made himself look professional. There is actually a whole business there. And at the end of the day, people like to do business with people still, regardless of how the dynamic of the world is changing in the digital landscape. People still want to do business with people. And so if you come across in a video as likable, you have a nice personality, or even just come across as knowledgeable or as an expert in your field, that can instantly make you more trustworthy and make you more memorable. So if you're looking at all these MSPs that look identical, but actually I've seen one with Darren and I actually really like Darren in that video, there's a much greater chance that you'll end up getting the business.
Yeah, and they'll meet you for the first time, but they think it's the 10th time.
I get that so often. So every time I go to an event, people come up to me and say, Luke, oh my God, I feel like I know you because I've seen you in these podcasts or in these videos or whatever. And it gives you instant rapport. They feel like they already know you and they like you way ahead of any other conversation that you may have had. So yeah, hugely beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with team pictures.
Yeah.
On your website, loads of people use so many stocked images that just doesn't come across in that warm feeling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Real photographs, 100%. I think people can be really good at identifying stock images now. I feel like stock images and AI images have a particular look to them. And once you start to recognize them, you start to see them everywhere. So then the authentic ones then really seem to stand out.
Yeah, they've got perfect teeth going on.
Yeah.
Shiny white teeth.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, or 6 fingers.
Another area of consistency that I see is, I talk about this in the sales world. So in the sales world, I'm a big believer of the sales person who's accountable for net new revenue has no link to delivery. Why do I say that? Subconsciously or consciously, I know if delivery is busy, I won't sell. Because one, I know I'm just compounding the problem, but also it's my name that's going on this sale.
Sure.
And so if I know they already can't deliver it, I'm not going to sell.
Yes.
So typically in a lot of MSPs, the principal will be involved in both angles of sales and operation. Mm-hmm. And so they don't deliver sales when they're busy. Also because they're too busy.
Yeah.
So they're involved in the operation, so they don't deliver the sale. Mm-hmm. I see that a lot in marketing and video content.
Yeah.
Do you see this problem in your customers?
Absolutely. We see it in every business, and if I'm being completely honest, I'll hands up in my own business as well. When we're busy, we not that we don't do our marketing. It's just it's so low down in our order of priorities of things that we have to do. It kind of just disappears.
Yeah.
And if I were to look at any businesses, kind of YouTube channels or social media channels, I can see where they're busy and where they're quiet just based on their flurries of activity. The difficulty with that is that when you don't post for a long time, you absolutely seem to lose momentum, particularly on YouTube. There is definitely a momentum factor at the moment. And so when you want to start up again, when you're quiet, it is like kind of running a treacle, trying to get going again. Whereas if you remain consistent throughout the year, I know it might be difficult to do, but then when you really want to bring sales in, you're at a much better place, you're hitting the ground running, and it's far easier to kind of get those inquiries. What you said before about not even being able to deliver on sales inquiries that might come through, this isn't going to work for every business, but having a wait list absolutely seems to work. With us, having a wait list definitely seemed to work. If anything, it seemed to make clients want to work with us more because they assume that we're so
creates
busy.
more attention.
Exactly. So a wait list can be a powerful thing if it works for your industry. But yeah, if you can try and maintain that marketing activity throughout the year, it can make a huge difference.
Great thing for me there is that priority, because that's what I talk about a lot. When someone says I haven't got time, Darren, it's a case of, well, where does this thing that we're talking about sit on your priority list? Because everyone's got 1,000 things in their list, but you can only do the 80-20 rule. So you can only work on the 20% of things that are going to make the biggest difference in your business.
Absolutely.
And I think the big change for MSPs that I see that are consistently growing is they consistently deliver content. And that's because they have said that is a big priority for us in the business. You know, I'm sure Steve Bartlett on a Diary of CEO, that's his money engine, is that Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does not go and do a production because he's busy.
Exactly, 100%. And that's a really good example as well, because, you know, that is somebody who is going to be extremely busy, but still will find the time and make sure that's constantly going and ticking in the background, because it powers probably everything else that goes on in his business.
The other thing we do as well, I don't know if you see other people doing this, but we purposely try and keep away from videoing something that's happening today.
All right, okay.
So I purposely never try and comment on something that I've seen in the news or something I'm seeing on social media, because I want to keep ahead of our schedule. So, for instance, our podcast could be aired 3 months before it gets delivered.
Yeah.
That gives me a 3-month runway. If I get too busy, I'm not missing a deadline because I've got a backlog of
So
videos.
you're removing kind of the time sensitivity from your content, so you have the freedom to publish it whenever you can.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, did you see people stockpiling like that?
Yeah, we absolutely see people that will go in, and I don't know how they do it because I'd be exhausted, but they would film, for example, 8 podcasts in one day, and then that's then 2 months worth of content. And of course, from those 8 podcasts, they might get 8 long form videos and maybe, I don't know, 3 shorts for every one of those podcasts as well. So it really does give them a huge amount of content within a short amount of time. But most people probably aren't as proactive as that, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I max out at 3. We've tried 4, and that 4th one does a lot of tongue twisting going on.
Yeah.
Like, that's energy levels gone.
I've done 2 in one day, and my brain just isn't functioning by the end of it. I'm like, what did you just say?
Trying to keep ahead as well.
Yeah.
It's very hard. But another great thing you just touched on there is it may be one video production, but you have multiple things that come out the back of that.
Yeah.
Do you have a structure to that?
I personally don't, but another good friend of mine, a LinkedIn expert, Louise Brogan, she uses something called the COPE strategy, which is create once, publish everywhere. And this is where she will film with a business for 1 hour. And then from that 1 hour of footage, she will have, again, maybe like a podcast episode, a couple of videos, some short form clips, blog posts. She'll use the transcripts and actually turn those into a newsletter. And she'll create a whole month's worth of content just from that 1 hour's worth of video. I think if time is a limitation, as it probably is for most businesses, that can be a really time and cost-effective way of producing a lot of content.
Yeah, because that's back to rolling the person in for 1 hour, but delivering lots of different threads that they're not even involved in.
Exactly.
They've walked away.
Yeah, exactly. As long as someone's got the content, they can do so much with it at the end of it.
So you talked there then about that return on investment, and I think that's very key in people's minds.
Yeah.
Like, how are you tracking that?
Yeah, I mean, it's worth just thinking about video as a whole. Like historically, video was always quite restrictive. It was always only the biggest companies that could afford to do video, because video is expensive to produce and even more expensive to distribute and kind of pay for paid advertising. And so it's only the biggest companies that can do it.
On TV advertising?
On TV, of course. Yeah, TV, of course, yeah. Now, video is extremely accessible to anyone. Even the video quality we have on our phones is 4K video. It's probably better than some of the dedicated cameras I had back in 2009. Okay. So extremely accessible to everybody. And distribution is extremely cost effective. You can pay a penny per view, for example, on YouTube, or if you know what you're doing, you can get a lot of organic views with your video content as well. So, if video has always been kind of the gold standard for marketing, having it now at such an effective price, so incredibly cheap, getting a return on investment typically is very, very easy. In a lot of cases, in fact, in almost every case, when we're producing video content for our clients, we track almost every click, almost every outcome that we can possibly get. So just as an example, we might have a video that might only have, let's say, 100 views, but out of those 100 views, we may have got 3 conversions from that video. And in some cases, one of our clients, those conversions can be very, very high value. It could be talking £20,000. So although from the outside looking in, you've had 100 views on a video, that doesn't seem like a very good return on investment. If actually you've made 60K off the back of that video, all of a sudden your investment is extremely good. You've got a very, very high ROI.
So that's another great comment we're leading into there that spun my mind again. I heard someone the other day talking about having that vanity of chasing comments and views, etc.
Yeah.
And he put it in a world of, I could sit here right now, someone could run past me, slap me across the face, I put that online and it takes off and it takes us everywhere. You talked a little bit about having like people subscribing that are not looking for that type of content.
Yeah.
So you can chase that comments, but is it converting for you?
Exactly. I mean, if you take my channel, for example, I'm all about views. I want the highest views possible because I want the highest amount of ad revenue possible. But for a business, maybe 100 views is a really, really good outcome if it's led to X amount of conversions, which equals Y amount of sales. The point that you just made, years ago, we had a client. Do you remember the mannequin challenge? Where everybody had to stand still and this Black Beatles song playing. Does everybody remember that?
Yeah.
So we had a client that did that video and posted it to YouTube. That video was by far and away the most popular thing they'd ever done on their channel. Tens and tens of thousands of views, but no outcomes to show off the back of it. And I think the people that subscribed off the back of that channel weren't actually interested in any of the other videos they were posting. So although it got the viewership, didn't really get the outcomes that we wanted.
Yeah. So what we're saying there then is actually define your outcomes.
Yes.
What actually do you want out of you doing this?
Before you even script your video, what is the desired outcome from this? It might be that it's awareness, and that's fine, but more often than not, you want leads or sales or inquiries.
Yeah, you want a revenue return.
Absolutely.
We've talked about people starting out, we've talked to people with experience, we've talked to people about getting just native leads to that video to get that video heard. But then we've also touched a little bit on creating ads.
Yeah.
If you're not that sure or you're just starting out about actually creating someone coming to that video natively, actually doing ads is another way of doing it.
Yeah.
But we're hearing lots of information at the minute around Google Ads and Google Ads not working or working for some people spending lots of money and getting no return. Where is this in the video world?
So I couldn't really talk about YouTube, but what we're seeing is people are taking a lot of the money that they used to spend on Google Ads and are now investing into YouTube, and they're getting really, really good results off the back of it. The great thing about YouTube ads is that they can be extremely cost effective. You can talk about pennies per view, and if you've got like a 2 or 3% conversion rate, all of a sudden you've got a really, really cost effective marketing campaign there. It's all about making sure that you've got the right video. If you've got a good video, the advertising part of it, the advertising spend is easy. It's if you've got a video that's not really designed to be an ad, that's when you tend to kind of burn or churn through your money quite quickly. But I think if you've got the right strategy, YouTube paid ads can be a really, really good way of getting immediate kind of views onto your website.
So I'm going to dig into that a little bit there. What's the difference between a YouTube video that's been created for a YouTube ad versus a long and a short that we've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing things correctly, you've both got strategic outcomes for both of those videos. But in many cases, I think an ad would be a lot shorter. You get to the point much, much faster, probably within the first 5 seconds. And just make sure, again, just think the whole time that you're scripting your video is we're going to be putting a lot of money into putting this video in front of the right people. We want to make sure that we've got the right messaging and we're creating content that hopefully resonates with them that they want to see.
So if someone's done Google Ads before and they've got some skills in Google Ads, I'm trying to think of any of my skills in Google Ads as I'm saying this, but we're basically looking at what are people searching for? What are the key words that people are searching for?
Yeah.
We're then creating a link to that keyword. We're then presenting the right information to that keyword. So if you search for bathrooms, I'm not giving you a kitchen ad.
Yeah.
Is it the same in YouTube world? Are we going after those keywords and we're delivering an ad to that?
Keywords can absolutely play a part, and that should absolutely be a piece of your overall marketing. But I think with YouTube, we have other things that are probably more effective. So I often look at, well, who is our biggest competitor? I want to make sure that I'm appearing on my competitors' channels, or that I'm targeting the same audience of another channel, because I know that that audience is perfect for us. So there's other ways in which you can do that targeting. And actually, if you're used to using Google Ads, I think you'll probably find the YouTube ad platform probably quite easy to use. I think they've made it in a way that it can be very, very complex and it can be very, very comprehensive. But even for someone who's an absolute beginner, I think you can find your way relatively easily.
That was a great thing that you're talking about there. So someone's getting views that you want. How do you go after that?
A number of ways. There's quite a deep subject and you're starting to encroach outside of my area of expertise, but you will even have within your ad manager different ways in which you can target things, targeting by topic, targeting by keyword, and even targeting by channel. You can even list specific channels that you want to target.
Go after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Really interesting that then, because I think a lot of MSPs today are thinking to themselves that my competitors aren't doing it, but they may very well be. Even if it's not a direct competitor, go and find an MSP that is doing it, because if they're doing it, they're probably getting some return from it.
Yeah.
And go after that channel and go after that comments and try and duplicate that. I'm a big believer of not reinventing the wheel. There's lots of frameworks. There's lots of people doing good things out there. You don't have to be the person that comes up with the brainstorming thing that's never been done before, because typically it has.
Yeah.
So almost like do as you're told. I'm a big believer of it. In the technical world that we live in, we constantly evolve every 3 to 6 months, let's say the service desk. There are frameworks to deliver a service desk. Just do as you're told and follow one of them and stick to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you're seeing that in YouTube world, in the ads, the video. You mentioned some of the frameworks you talked about, some of the acronyms. It's just do as you're told.
Almost everything is, especially in our case, it's do as we say, not as we do, because we don't always follow our own advice as well. But yeah, there's absolutely a best practice for everything. And if you stick to that, you've got a much, much better chance of getting good results.
What is your key takeaway from this conversation?
I think my key takeaway from this conversation is that there's an approach to video that can get you better results. And I think if you follow those processes, some of the acronyms that we talked about, creating your title, your thumbnail, and your hook at the start before you even start filming, and then structuring your video in that way using a HYBE acronym, I think automatically any videos that you create will have a much, much better chance of performing well on the YouTube platform. And they're really, really easy to implement. It's just a case of knowing them.
Great. I think my key takeaway is consistency and time. Everyone talks about having enough time, which basically creates poor consistency. Yeah. And for me, it's really setting out in the business, what is the priority here of producing, marketing, video, whatever it might be. What is the priority in your business? And then setting that out and sticking to it.
Yeah.
And as an owner, there's only you can make that happen in your business. Everybody else can move around if you're alone to move around. But if you create a priority in your business and then stick to it, that's going to make such a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's a great takeaway. Well, thanks for joining me on the Scale Up podcast with, of course, the host, Darren Strong. And if you want to see an alternative approach to using YouTube, then check out the episode with Jonathan Edwards right here.